Quickly before the video starts, if you're new here, and even if you're not, a reminder to click subscribe. I try to do the best car reviews on YouTube with great photography and accurate information. A lot of people wonder why I don't have 1 million subs. Let's right that wrong. With all the luxury SUVs and crossovers filling mall parking lots these days, it's hard to remember that just over 20 years ago, they didn't really exist. Mercedes-Benz is largely credited with creating the segment in 1997 with the M-Class. The GLE is the direct descendant of that rig. The E and two DRL bars position it as the E-Class of crossovers. This one is all new and very much a Mercedes. You've heard the descriptor, feels like a German car. The GLE feels like a German car. It's hefty, it's substantial. You'll never feel like you're behind the wheel of a Toyota Yaris, that's for sure. The 2020 GLE is very deep and very desirable, and very pricey. The base price for a GLE450 4MATIC, which runs with a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, starts at about $57,000. That should be no surprise. This is a Mercedes, not a Chevrolet. This 450 here begins at $62,000. This one is optioned up to just under 99 grand, which means all of the extras will buy you a pretty nice Chevy. I'm happy to have a fully optioned model, and not just because I get a decent massage every time I bop down to the store to grab some milk and eggs. It means I can show you some awesome tech, starting with the 48-volt E-Active body control suspension. If you find yourself stuck in deep sand or snow, and what Mercedes driver hasn't, free driving assist mode bounces the GLE to vary the pressure under the tires, so the vehicle can eventually work its way out of the situation. So many jokes to be made. No doubt they'll show up in the comments. Make them creative, okay? The air suspension is hydraulically assisted and obviously very powerful. An added bonus to the tech, using the MBUX interface that I'll talk about in detail later, each wheel can be raised or lowered independently when the terrain is really rocky, sending individual tires downward for more traction. Will owners ever use this? Maybe, maybe not. But it sure is fun to show the neighbors. Not to say the GLE is a poser. At Mudfest, an SUV of the Year competition put on by the Northwest Automotive Press Association, it took on the standard course without breaking a sweat. Simulating an unimproved Forest Service road, it's more rugged than it looks on camera. I doubt actual owners will ever steer their expensive vehicle over terrain this challenging. And so you know, the GLE450 won in the compact and mid-sized luxury segment. The 450 is a mild hybrid. Its 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine is turbocharged. The electric starter generator uses the same 48-volt system as the suspension. The motor adds torque fill during that split second the turbo is spooling up. In total, there's 362 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Now, the engine does start up, but you wouldn't know it unless you looked at the tachometer. That's how quiet and smooth this thing is. The 9-speed automatic transmission is controlled with this, which seems more responsive than others I've used. Manual shifting is possible. Driving modes? There's a bunch of them. It's easy to tell the difference between most, too. It's not for the indecisive, neither is the gauge cluster, which you've probably noticed is one of two 12.3-inch high-def screens. It can be configured to suit your mood. Nice, but I kind of miss analog gauges. Just saying. The 450 is only available with all-wheel drive. 100% of the torque can be transferred between the front and rear axles. So that electric motor isn't huge, but it does deliver enough torque, so this thing feels pretty snappy off the line. Mercedes claims a 0 to 60 mile an hour time of 5.5 seconds, and I think it's being conservative. Even with a more upright windshield, the GLE is now more aerodynamic with a drag coefficient of 0.29. Impressive for a machine this size. It should come as no surprise that the GLE is very comfortable and very quiet. It's a Mercedes. I don't think I really even need to say that. Cameras scan the road continuously, sending data to the suspension so it can react to big bumps and potholes in advance, keeping the ride smooth and cushy without body roll or dive. That trick suspension, which costs $8,100 by the way, has something called curve mode. Now, when I throw it into a corner here, the vehicle actually leans into it, and you can adjust how much it does that. It's pretty cool. You can actually feel it if you're paying attention. On bumpy roads, the motion of the dampers recaptures some of the energy that's used to power the system. Weighing close to 5,000 pounds, the heft is felt in hard cornering. My guess is that on twisty roads, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, BMW X5, and Porsche Cayenne would be more fun to push hard. I'd be willing to spend a day comparing them, just to be sure. If you haven't surmised, this car is absolutely stuffed with technology. It'll take an owner weeks, if not months, to figure all of it out. One thing that I really like is the augmented reality system. Now, when you put an address into the Navi system, you get these kind of prompts, landmarks, addresses. It's pretty cool and very useful. On the highway, the semi-autonomous driving tech works well. It centers the car securely in the lane, paces traffic ahead to a complete stop, takes moderate curves with confidence, and even adjusts speed automatically when speed zones change. It also uses live traffic data to predetermine if it needs to slow down for clogged traffic ahead. Oh, and it changes lanes if you tap the turn signal. Now, because of that big electric motor, the automatic engine start-stop system is remarkably smooth. Really, it's something you may not even notice. This is a mild hybrid. Don't expect Prius-like fuel economy. The EPA rates the 450's average at 21 miles per gallon, just one mpg under the less powerful 350. FYI, hybrid versions of the Lexus RXL and Acura MDX average 29 and 27. Part of the MBUX interface is a voice assistant. Now, sometimes it just comes on while you're driving. Usually it's triggered by the phrase, "Hey Mercedes." But not always. "Hey Mercedes." It's being shy. "Hi Mercedes."
How can I help you?
Tune the radio to Sirius XM Chill. It's actually pretty good when it works. And it usually works, but not always. Oh, and the giant head-up display is something I would want on any car. I could do a documentary on the cabin. There are so many details to cover. Briefly, there's everything a person could want in here. The supportive massaging seats are heated and vented. The steering wheel is toasty, so are these and this. The cup holders are heated and cooled, and it did keep my coffee warm. There's even a fragrance system, so you won't need those trees hanging from the rearview mirror. Unless you want. All that and the rich ambient lighting can be adjusted 1,000 different ways. Overall, it seems more S-Class in here than E-Class. I will gripe that the pockets don't get flocking, so when you put hard things in here, they can rattle, and I find the running boards too small to be useful for my size 11 feet, and too big to exit without scraping my Achilles. But man, the leather and wood impress the moment you open the door. It's lovely. Remember, almost 99 grand is tested. So let's talk about the MBUX interface. In addition to the voice assistant, the ways to interact with the GLE are practically infinite. The small steering wheel pads are decent at selecting what you want while driving, or the trackpad can be used, including handwriting recognition. The pad is much better than the one that Lexus uses. Or MBUX can be used as a touchscreen interface. It's your choice. I find it light years ahead of the outgoing command system, and I think most owners will quickly get used to it because of the flexibility. Apple CarPlay is apparently wireless, but I ran into a snafu. Glad there's wireless charging since I don't have USB-C cords. The GLE is about the future, not the past. I really like this back seat. I'm kind of afraid to ask why. And yet you kind of have. For one thing, a lot of things are powered, lots of things to play with. I can dial in nearly 4 inches of leg or cargo room, plus recline the seats. Sunshades? Those are also powered. Maybe the kids won't break them as easily as manual ones. The outboard positions are heated, though not vented. Headroom is good. The cushions are high, so thigh support is solid. Lots of leg and foot room. It's good even with the seats dialed forward. Dual zone climate? Of course, and plenty of places to plug in phones if you have those new USB cables. The GLE is wide enough so that 3 adults will be very comfortable here. You'll be asked to carpool all the time, especially when friends, family, and coworkers get a load of the big panoramic roof. Nice.
I've been doing this test for 17 years. The average score is 7 bundles. That means 6,000 packs over the years. Wonder what that is in metric tons.
There's room for a spare tire under the load floor, and the security cover tucks away nicely. A 3rd row of seats can be ordered, but I have to believe it would be cramped. If you're living large, go all the way with a GLS if you haul a lot of people often. Nice that the front seats are smart enough to move out of the way when folding the back seats. They're powered both ways, but I'm an impatient guy. I won't make you wait on that. The suspension even drops down a little bit to make loading easier. Sometimes every inch counts. The GLE has a pretty spacious boot. These bundles are about the size of a carry-on suitcase, and the Mercedes easily takes on 11 of them. Now, for some reason, some of you think I stuff too much in, and the hatch won't close. What's the point of that?
Really? I have nothing to gain here. It's all about finding out the truth.
Built in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the GLE's styling is all about evolution, not revolution. The wheelbase is longer by about 3 inches now. The familiar, graceful C-pillar is large, but visibility in this SUV is pretty good, and there's always technology to the rescue if, for some reason, that's a problem. The 450 optioned up like this one is a very deep vehicle and lives up to the Mercedes-Benz promise of technology and luxury. It's hard to find fault here. In the back of my mind, I can't help but think about the complexity of all the systems and how expensive they would be to fix if they needed repair. But that's coming from the mindset of a guy who can't afford this car in the first place. While it's easy to slash $13,000 from the price by eliminating the E-Active suspension and the rich, powerful Burmester 3D audio system, would you want to? The GLE450 is best experienced in full-on luxury trim. In that regard, it seems to be the one to beat in this segment. A couple more things about the MBUX interface. It uses artificial intelligence to learn your patterns. So, if you often call your spouse when leaving work, or listen to one radio station in the morning and another in the evening, it will ask if you want those things to happen. There are hand gestures that I didn't show you. Finally, a feature called Energizing Coach can alternate seat massage patterns and play different music to keep the driver attentive. And if you have a Garmin smartwatch, its stress and sleep data can help the GLE to choose the right energizing program. Sometimes I think all of this stuff is just too much.
Before I go, a quick story for you. I was driving around with my wife and I told her about the voice assistant and she decided to give it a try. Hey Mercedes, turn up the radio volume. And it said, please repeat the command. Well, it did this like 4 or 5 times and she got very frustrated and said, well, maybe if I just used a German accent. And I can't do the bad German accent that she did, but it worked. It finally worked. You kind of had to be there. But I have never seen her laugh so hard in my life. And really the system it's okay. But I think we're used to systems that work pretty well, like Siri, which works well for me anyways. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk. Wow, such service. It's like back in the 50s. You missed a spot.
Yeah.